You ever notice how some moments don't warn you before they break you? How a woman can go from warm to distant without changing the sound of her voice? I'm telling you this as your older brother because most men don't see it coming until they're already bleeding inside. The first sign is small, barely there. Just a shift in her tone, a pause before she replies, a softness turning into something thin. There's a night when you text her and she says she's just tired, and you tell yourself it's nothing. But your chest feels tight anyway. The air around you goes still. You can smell the cold coming before you understand what it means, and that's when the air shifted. This is the part that hurts to admit. She's not pulling away because she stopped caring. She's pulling away because she's drowning in everyone else's attention. You think she's drifting because of you, but her burnout started long before you showed up. In a world where she's treated like a resource, not a person, she gets tired in places you'll never see. But here's what no one tells you. When she disappears, she's not choosing a different man. She's choosing quiet. She's choosing escape. She's choosing nothingness because the noise finally cracked her open. There's a moment most men never notice. It's not the slow fade. It's the second her eyes stop meeting yours with the same softness. It's the tiny tightening at the corner of her mouth when you ask if she's okay. It's the half second of silence before she responds, like she's pulling her feelings through exhaustion just to speak. The room felt different all of a sudden. You can feel the temperature drop, not on your skin, but behind your ribs. And if you misread this truth, life hits you hard, because you'll blame yourself for something that wasn't yours to fix. When she disappears emotionally, you think it's rejection, you think it's coldness, you think it's punishment. But she's fighting a quiet war with the part of her heart that's been stretched thin by endless choices, endless messages, endless expectations. You don't see it because she's learned to hide the exhaustion with practiced sweetness. She's learned to smile even when her mind feels like a drained battery. But when she hits her limit, she shuts down, not with cruelty, but with self-preservation. A woman doesn't vanish because she wants another man. She vanishes because she's running from the emotional taxation of being everyone's fantasy, but no one's sanctuary. And you, the man who showed up with real intentions, you get caught in the fallout of her fatigue. You stand there with your hands in your pockets, replaying the last conversation, wondering which sentence of yours pushed her away. You scan through the last week, searching for the moment she silently closed the door. But it wasn't a moment, it was accumulation. You feel your breath get heavy. And when you finally sit in that quiet room where her warmth used to be, something inside you whispers the question every man hates. Was I not enough? Exhale. The brutal truth is this. Her disappearance wasn't about your worth. It was about her capacity. It was about the emotional weight she carries from conversations that drain her, men who objectify her, pressures she never signed up for, and when her bandwidth collapses, she doesn't announce it. She just goes silent. And right when you think it's over, it isn't. Because her withdrawal leaves a shadow inside you that changes how you see love for years. You remember the last look she gave you. Tired, stretched, distant. The unspoken ache behind her eyes. The quiet second, and everything clicked. That's when you realize the truth. Sometimes she doesn't walk away because she wants to. She walks away because she's running on emotional fumes, and you were the only space where she felt safe enough to collapse. But if you miss this truth, you'll carry the wrong story for the rest of your life. You'll think you failed. You'll think your presence made her retreat. You'll think her silence was a verdict, not a symptom. And it will carve something heavy into your chest. If you misread this moment, you'll harden. You'll close parts of your heart you didn't mean to. You'll start treating connection like a trap instead of a chance. You'll build armor you don't need, because the wound wasn't rejection. It was misinterpretation. And the cost of getting it wrong will follow you. And that's why I'm telling you this now. Like a brother who's seen too many good men break for the wrong reasons. You need to understand the real story before it shapes you into someone colder than you meant to become. Because when she disappears, it's not the end of something. It's the revelation of everything she never said. And if you miss this truth, you'll pay for it later in how you love, how you trust, how you see yourself. But stay with me. This is only the first blow. The real battle starts when you decide what to do with the silence she leaves behind. I remember the night it happened to me, the shift I kept pretending I didn't feel. 1 minute she was laughing with me, leaning in, touching my arm like her body trusted mine more than her thoughts did. And then, almost invisibly, something in her pulled back. Not her body, her presence. Her spirit felt like it took a step away while her face stayed right there. I tried to ignore it. I tried to act normal. But inside, a quiet, unsettled voice whispered, "Something's slipping." There was this pause in her breathing, barely noticeable, and I told myself I was imagining it. But your chest knows things before your brain does. My internal monologue was turning bitter. Don't panic, don't ask, don't chase. Then another voice, deeper and older, answered back, "She's already gone. You just haven't accepted it yet." And that contradiction hit me hard, because she was still replying, still smiling, still saying everything was fine. But something in her energy said the opposite. You ever feel that? When a woman's words stay warm but her spirit goes cold, that's the emotional contradiction most men refuse to acknowledge, because facing it means admitting the connection is changing. I could hear the faint hum of the ceiling fan. I could feel the dryness in my mouth. My hands were colder than they should have been. And somewhere between her short answers and her forced softness, the room felt different all of a sudden. I didn't know if I should ask what was wrong or just sit there pretending I hadn't noticed. That's the trap. You don't know whether leaning in makes you needy or staying calm makes you distant. Every option feels like a wrong step. She told me she was just tired, and I nodded like it made sense. But her tired wasn't about life. It wasn't about her day. It was about us. Or more honestly, about the weight she'd been carrying long before I arrived in her world. A weight I didn't cause but was now paying for. That's the brutal part. You end up absorbing the fallout of pressures that were never yours. And that's when the air shifted again. Softer this time but sharper in meaning. She looked away when she didn't have to. She checked her phone when she didn't need to. She smiled in a way that told me the smile was a habit, not a feeling. I could feel something inside me turning, like my instincts were finally catching up to what my skin already knew. You start questioning yourself. Do I pull back too? Do I give her space? Do I ask what's wrong? Do I wait until she comes to me? It's like trying to walk on cracking ice. Every move echoes too loudly, and if you react wrong, you lose a part of yourself. Because in moments like these, men don't just risk losing her. They risk losing their grounding, their confidence, their sense of direction. There was a moment when she went quiet for a full second too long, just one beat. But in that silence, everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers. The silence changed before the truth did. And I realized I wasn't fighting her distance. I was fighting my own fear of being abandoned without explanation. You start over-analyzing everything. The last text she didn't reply to as fast. The last kiss that felt a little lighter. The last time she pulled her hand away first. Replay line. I kept replaying the last week like I was inspecting evidence of a crime I couldn't name. And the worst part, you don't want to show her you feel it. Because you think if you stay calm, it'll come back. But you can feel something closing inside her. Slow, silent, deliberate. And every man knows that once a woman closes emotionally, she rarely reopens the same way. There was a point I looked at her and knew. She's tired in a way that has nothing to do with me. But even knowing that didn't make it easier to swallow, because tiredness feels like rejection when you're the one who cares, and right when you think the moment is done, it isn't. Her distance becomes your self-doubt. Her silence becomes your overthinking. Her burnout becomes your emotional bruise, and you start carrying a weight she walked away from. I didn't want to admit it back then, but I felt this ache in my chest, like the start of a bruise you can't see yet. I took a slow breath to steady myself. Exhale. This was the quiet war inside me, wanting to hold on, wanting to step back, not knowing which version of me would survive the fallout. And if you react wrong here, if you chase, if you break, if you collapse, you don't just lose her. You lose the version of yourself that knows how to stand steady in uncertainty. But stay with me, because the real truth behind her disappearance is deeper than anything you've felt so far. The next part is where most men finally understand the pattern they've been trapped in for years. There's a point every man reaches where the confusion burns long enough to turn into clarity. It doesn't happen fast, it doesn't happen clean, it happens in pieces. Small realizations disguised as pain. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the truth that could have saved you years of repeating the same heartbreak. I remember sitting alone in my apartment, the window cracked just enough for the cold night air to brush against my skin. The room was dim, my hands were still, my mind was loud. That's when the first truth hit me. Quiet, sharp, undeniable. Truth. 1. She isn't pulling away from you. She's pulling away from the weight of being emotionally available to too many people at once. Modern dating stretches women thin. Messages, attention, expectations. It drains them. And when the burnout hits, she retreats into silence when nobody can access her. Not even you. She's not leaving you behind. She's escaping everything that feels like pressure. And there was a quiet second, and everything clicked. I realized she wasn't walking away because she stopped caring. She was walking away because she didn't have enough energy left to keep caring. Truth 2. A woman's withdrawal is rarely sudden. It's accumulated exhaustion. The way the human mind shuts down when too many emotional tabs are open. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't warn you. She just folds inward. Her silence isn't a punishment. It's a survival tactic. And that's the part most men misunderstand. We think her fading interest is a verdict about us. But often, it's her quiet attempt to protect her last bit of emotional bandwidth. The room felt different all of a sudden, like her absence had a physical weight. Truth 3. Her burnout doesn't start with you, but it lands on you. Because you're the one who showed up with sincerity. You're the one who tried to care. And sincerity is heavy for someone who's been emotionally overspent. You become the safest place to collapse. And collapsing doesn't look beautiful. It looks like distance, irritability, half-hearted affection, overwhelmed silence. If you take this personally, the wound goes deep. If you understand it, the wound turns into wisdom. But most men choose the wound. Truth 4. Women today live inside a psychological contradiction. They crave connection, but connection drains them. They want companionship, but companionship demands energy they barely have. They want to be understood, but they're too burned out to explain themselves, so they default to silence, a silence that suffocates you while saving them. And the silence changed before the truth did. I felt it in my bones. Her quiet wasn't coldness. It was a plea for emotional rest. Truth 5, controlled metaphor. Think of her like a phone running at 3% battery. She's not refusing to answer your call because she doesn't want to talk. She's refusing because one more conversation might shut her down completely. She's not choosing distance. She's conserving the last bit of herself, and you're caught in the crossfire between her exhaustion and her hope. If you misunderstand this, you'll feel abandoned in a story that was never about abandonment. And just when I thought the moment was done, it wasn't. Because the deepest truth was still waiting for me. The delayed tension reveal that cut the deepest. Truth 6, delayed reveal. She disappears not because she's done with you, but because she's terrified that she can't keep up the version of herself you first saw. That early warmth, that emotional availability, that softness, all of that came from a part of her that was already stretched too thin. She vanishes to protect you from seeing her falling apart, and she vanishes to protect herself from feeling like a disappointment. This is the moment most men never notice. She withdraws because she cares, not because she doesn't. That's the irony that breaks us. I sat there with my palms pressed together, breathing slow, feeling something inside me turning. It wasn't anger, it wasn't heartbreak, it was understanding. Heavy, mature, masculine understanding. A kind that tasted bitter, but grounded. And then the final truth came, the one that most men avoid because it forces accountability. Truth 7. If you don't learn how to recognize emotional burnout in a woman, you'll keep choosing the same wounds in different bodies. You'll mistake exhaustion for disinterest. You'll think silence means she found someone else. You'll take her retreat as a personal failure, and every time the story will end the same way, you blaming yourself for a burden she never asked you to carry. The room grew still. There was no music, no movement, no distraction. Just the sound of my breath, and the echo of realizations landing one after another. I felt the weight of every mistake I'd made in past situations. How many times I thought I wasn't enough. How many times I believed I'd been replaced. How many times I hardened, not knowing the real enemy was misinterpretation. And that's when the air shifted. One more time, but this time inside me. Not dread, not fear, clarity. A clean line drawn through years of confusion. Because here's the micro-mistake men never see coming. If you ignore these truths, the cycle repeats. Same confusion, same pattern, same wound, different woman. I leaned back, stared at the ceiling, and exhaled. A long, steady breath that felt like letting go of years of misunderstandings. And right when you think it's over, it isn't. Because the real transformation begins in what you choose to do next. How you rebuild your emotional armor without becoming cold, without losing empathy, without carrying the wrong story into the next connection. Stay with me. The final part is where you learn how to walk out of this with strength, direction, and a version of yourself that can survive the silence without breaking. I sat there in that dim room, the quiet pressing against my skin, and for the first time, I didn't run from the truth. I let it sit with me. I let it sting. That's the thing about clarity. It doesn't arrive like comfort. It arrives like cleanup after a storm, heavy, necessary, masculine. I realized something every man eventually has to understand. You can't stop her from disappearing, but you can stop letting her disappearance define you. There's a point where a man has to separate her exhaustion from his identity. A point where he has to say, if she's drowning, I don't need to go down with her. Because caring isn't the same as collapsing, and trying to save her isn't the same as saving yourself. I stood up, walked to the sink, splashed cold water on my face. The chill snapped my focus back into my body. My hand steadied on the edge of the counter. There was no anger in me anymore, just a grounded clarity. The room felt different all of a sudden, not because she came back, but because I finally did. Here's the armor you learn to build, the kind that doesn't make you hard, just anchored. You learn to stop chasing the silence. You learn to stop decoding her withdrawal like it's a puzzle. You learn to stop folding your self-worth into her burnout. You learn that if she needs space, you don't beg for closeness. You don't audition for reassurance. You don't shrink yourself trying to fit into the little energy she has left. You stand, you breathe, you stay grounded in who you are. A woman retreating isn't a test you need to pass. It's a moment you need to interpret with strength. And if even one part of this felt like your life, you and I are built from the same scars. Here's the part men never talk about. When she disappears, you think the story is about her. But the real story is about what happens inside you. Your instinct is to question your worth. Your instinct is to replay every second. Your instinct is to take responsibility for her emotional collapse. Replay line. I replayed everything until my chest felt like a locked room full of echoes. But then I realized, you can't love anyone from a place of self-blame. You can't lead from a place of insecurity, and you can't grow if every woman's disappearance becomes a verdict on your value. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. Not about her, about me. I wasn't losing her. I was losing the boy in me who thought he needed to fix everything to be loved. The boy who panicked the moment affection changed. The boy who interpreted distance as failure. I took a breath. Slow, deep, steady. Exhale. A man becomes stronger when he stops trying to rescue someone from a battle they refuse to admit they're fighting. A man becomes clearer when he stops confusing her silence with his inadequacy. A man becomes grounded when he realizes that emotional disappearance isn't a reflection of his worth, but a reflection of her capacity. Picture yourself standing in that quiet room, finally choosing strength. Your shoulders back, your hands still, your breath steady. Not because she stayed, not because she left, but because you didn't collapse in the middle of uncertainty. And here's the final truth I need you to carry, brother. If you avoid this lesson, nothing changes. You'll keep absorbing wounds that were never yours. You'll keep trying to revive connections that died from exhaustion, not from disinterest. You'll keep chasing closeness from someone who stepped back for reasons you couldn't fix. And you'll keep losing yourself in the spaces where she couldn't show up. But if you face this truth, really face it, something shifts inside you. Your intuition sharpens, your self-worth steadies, your heart hardens just enough to protect you, but stays open enough to love without fear. And that brings us back to the beginning, back to the quiet shift you felt before you had the words for it. The moment she started disappearing, and you mistook it for rejection. The moment you thought you weren't enough. Now you know better. Now you see deeper. Now you understand the war she was fighting alone, and the wound you didn't deserve to carry. So here's your call to rise. When she disappears, don't disappear with her. Stand in your truth. Stand in your strength. Stand in the version of yourself that doesn't crumble just because someone else needed to retreat. You're not here to hold together what someone else is too exhausted to sustain. You're here to live with clarity, direction, and a backbone that doesn't fold under silence. And if you take nothing else from this entire story, take this. Her disappearance was never the end of your worth. It was the beginning of your awakening. If he misses this truth, he pays for it later. If he reacts wrong, he loses himself. If he ignores the insight, the cycle repeats. But if he chooses strength now, everything changes.